The massive space station called Concordia Prime floated in the darkness between star systems. It was bigger than most moons, with towers that stretched for miles and lights that could be seen from distant planets. Today, representatives from 859 different alien species had gathered inside its great council chamber. Ambassador HFY stood at the center of the circular room. The tall blue-skinned alien's forearms moved gracefully as he spoke. His voice carried to every corner of the vast space through advanced translation systems. Fellow council members, HFY began, we face a threat unlike any we have seen before. The humans have become too dangerous to ignore. A low murmur filled the chamber. Some aliens nodded their various heads in agreement. Others shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The humans had been part of galactic society for only 50 years, but they had already caused more changes than most species did in 1,000 years. Look at these numbers, HFY continued. A massive holographic display appeared above the chamber floor. It showed the human section of the galaxy. Red dots marked human colonies, and there were many of them. 47 worlds colonized. In just 5 decades, no species in galactic history has expanded this fast. Admiral Kretok of the Vorthak Empire stood up. The insect-like alien's 4 eyes glowed with concern. Ambassador HFY speaks the truth. But we must be careful. Humans are not like other species. They adapt quickly. They solve problems in ways we do not expect. HFY waved one of his arms dismissively. Which is exactly why we must act now, before they become even more dangerous. I propose a complete communication blackout. We cut all hyperspace relays to human space. We jam their quantum networks. We build a barrier around all their systems. The chamber erupted in discussion. Aliens spoke in hundreds of different languages, but the translation systems made sure everyone understood. Some representatives looked worried, others seemed excited by the idea. How long would this isolation last? Asked the representative from the Crystalline Collective, her voice sounding like wind chimes. Until they learn their place, HFY replied. Without access to galactic technology and trade, they will stop growing. They will become content with what they have. The threat will end without a single shot being fired. Admiral Kretok stood again. I must object. We do not fully understand human psychology. They may not react as we expect. Admiral, you worry too much. HFY said with a smile that showed his sharp teeth. Humans are still young. They depend on our technology for everything. Their ships use our hyperlane networks. Their computers run on our quantum processors. Their colonies trade our resources. Take all of that away and they will have no choice but to slow down. The debate continued for hours. Representatives shared stories about human behavior that worried them. Humans built things too fast. They asked too many questions. They refused to accept that something was impossible. They kept finding new ways to solve old problems. But HFY had prepared well for this meeting. He showed data proving that humans relied heavily on galactic infrastructure. He demonstrated how cutting them off would force them to focus inward, instead of expanding outward. He painted a picture of a contained humanity that would no longer threaten the established order. Think about it, he said during his final argument. Every species before humans took at least 1,000 years to colonize 10 worlds. Humans have colonized 47 in 50 years. If we allow this to continue, where will they be in another? 50 years? In 100 years? They could control half the galaxy. Fear won the day. When the final vote was called, 847 representatives voted in favor of the quarantine. Only 12 voted against it, mostly from species that had positive interactions with humans. The order went out immediately. Massive jamming stations powered up around the borders of human space. The hyperspace relays that connected human worlds to the rest of the galaxy shut down one by one. Quantum communication networks that allowed instant messages across light years suddenly went silent. Captain Sarah Chen was on the bridge of the exploration ship Endeavour when it happened. She had been leading a mission to chart new star systems beyond human space, when her communications officer suddenly looked confused. "Captain, I'm getting interference on all channels," the young officer reported. "It's not natural, someone is jamming our signals." Sarah frowned and walked to the communication station. She had been in space for 15 years and had never seen anything like this. "Try to reach Earth, use the quantum entanglement network." "I've tried, Captain, everything is being blocked. Even our navigation beacons are gone." Through the bridge windows, Sarah could see strange objects in the distance. They looked like enormous satellites, but they pulsed with energy she had never seen before. As she watched, more of them appeared, forming a line that seemed to stretch across space itself. "Captain," her science officer called out, "I'm detecting massive energy signatures. These objects are creating some kind of barrier. It's blocking all our long-range communications." Sarah took a deep breath. Something was very wrong. She activated her ship's emergency protocols and opened a channel on all frequencies. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the human exploration vessel Endeavour," she broadcast. "We are detecting massive energy signatures around our borders. Council station, please respond. Earth, please respond. Any human vessel, please respond." She waited. The bridge was silent except for the hum of the ship's systems. Her crew looked at her with worried expressions. "What's happening out there?" she asked, not really expecting an answer. The communication system crackled with static. Then, nothing but silence. Back on Concordia Prime, Zexhai watched the final hyperspace relay shut down. The barrier around human space was complete. No signals could get in or out. No ships could cross the boundary without special permission from the Council. "It is done," he announced to the remaining Council members. "Humanity has been contained. In a few months they will realize their situation and accept it. The galaxy is safe." Admiral Kretok remained in the chamber after most others had left. He stared at the holographic display showing the sealed human space. Something felt wrong about this decision, but he could not explain what. "You disagree with the Council's choice?" Zexhai asked, noticing the Admiral still present. "I hope we have not made a terrible mistake," Kretok replied. "Humans do not react to problems the way we do. When we face a barrier, we accept it or find a way around it. When humans face a barrier, they tend to break it." Zexhai laughed. "Admiral, you give them too much credit. They are clever, yes, but they are also dependent. Cut them off from galactic resources and technology, and they will have no choice but to focus on survival. They will not have time or energy for expansion or innovation." But as the two aliens talked, neither of them noticed something important in the data streams. Human industrial activity had not decreased after the barrier went up. If anything, energy readings from human worlds were starting to increase. The quarantine had begun, but instead of containing humanity's growth, it had done something else, entirely. It had given them complete freedom to develop without outside influence, and humans, as Admiral Kretok suspected, did not respond to isolation the way other species did. They got creative. 3 months had passed since the Great Barrier went up around human space. On Concordia Prime, Ambassador Zexhai felt very pleased with himself. The quarterly reports from the monitoring stations showed exactly what he had predicted. Human ships had stopped trying to cross the barrier after the first few weeks. Their expansion had clearly stopped. Zexhai stood before a smaller gathering of council members, presenting his success story. "As you can see, the quarantine has worked perfectly. Human aggression has ceased. Their exploration fleets have returned to their home systems. The galaxy is once again stable." The holographic display showed the human section of space as a calm, contained area. No ships moving beyond the barrier. No attempts to break through the jamming systems. Just quiet, isolated human worlds going about their business. "I told you they would accept their fate," Zexhai continued. "Without access to our technology and resources, they have been forced to focus on maintaining what they already have. Soon they will begin to stagnate. In a few generations, they will be no different from any other contained species." Several council members nodded approvingly. The decision had been controversial, but it seemed to be working without any violence or destruction. It was a clean solution to what many had seen as an impossible problem. But Admiral Kretok was studying his own set of data, and what he saw made his 4 eyes glow with concern. He stood up slowly, his insect-like form towering over the other representatives. "Ambassador HFY," he said, his voice carefully controlled. "I believe we may have a problem." HFY's confident smile faded slightly. "What kind of problem, Admiral?" "May I present my own data?" Kreetok asked. Without waiting for permission, he activated his own holographic display. The image that appeared made several council members gasp. Instead of the quiet, stable readings HFY had shown, Kreetok's display revealed something extraordinary. Energy signatures from human worlds were not staying the same or decreasing. They were exploding upward at an incredible rate. "This cannot be correct," HFY said, his blue skin turning a darker shade. "Your sensors must be malfunctioning." "I thought the same thing," Kreetok replied. "So I checked with monitoring stations around the entire barrier. They all show the same thing. Human industrial activity has increased by 340% since the quarantine began." The chamber fell silent. Representatives stared at the display showing massive spikes in energy production, construction activity, and resource processing across all human worlds. "But this is impossible," whispered the representative from the Etherian Collective. "They are cut off from galactic trade networks. They should be struggling to maintain current systems, not building new ones." Kreetok manipulated the display to show more detailed information. "It gets worse. Look at these readings from the Sol system." The image focused on humanity's home system. What they saw defied explanation. Massive construction projects surrounded Earth and its moon. Energy signatures indicated industrial complexes larger than anything in the galactic database. New structures appeared in the data almost daily, growing at a pace that seemed physically impossible. "Something very big is being built in human space," Kreetok said quietly. "Multiple somethings, actually, and they are using technologies that do not match anything in our records." HFY moved closer to the display, his 4 arms gesturing frantically. "This has to be an error. They cannot build anything advanced without access to our quantum processors, our gravity manipulators, our energy systems. They were completely dependent on galactic technology." "Were they?" Kreetok asked. "Or did we just assume they were because they used our systems when they were available?" Before anyone could answer that disturbing question, alarms began sounding throughout the chamber. A technician rushed to Admiral Kreetok's side and whispered urgently in his ear. The Admiral's expression became even more concerned. "What is it?" demanded HFY. "We have detected a probe," Kreetok announced. "A human probe has just breached the containment barrier." The chamber erupted in shocked voices. How could a human ship break through the most advanced jamming and containment system the galaxy had ever built? "Destroy it immediately," HFY ordered. "We tried," Kreetok replied. "Our defense systems cannot lock onto it. The probe is using some kind of phase technology that makes it impossible to target. It appears and disappears like a ghost." The holographic display changed to show the probe itself. The small craft looked nothing like the human ships in the galactic database. Where human vessels had been crude and functional, this probe was sleek and elegant. It moved through space in ways that seemed to ignore normal physics. "How are they powering it?" asked the Crystalline Collective representative. "Our sensors show no conventional energy signature." "That's just it," Kreetok said. "We don't know how they are powering it. The probe is operating on principles our scientists cannot immediately identify." More alarms sounded. Another technician approached with urgent news. "Admiral, we're detecting 17 more probes. They've appeared at different points around the barrier simultaneously." HFY's confident demeanor crumbled completely. "This is not possible. They cannot have developed new technology this quickly. No species develops this fast. Unless," Kreetok said slowly, "they were never really dependent on our technology in the first place. What if we didn't contain them? What if we just gave them a reason to stop using our systems and start developing their own?" The terrible implications of that possibility hung in the air. Every council member understood what it could mean. If humans had been capable of advanced independent development all along, then the quarantine hadn't limited them. It had freed them. They were holding back, whispered someone in the chamber. They were using our technology because it was easier, not because they needed it. The monitoring systems continued reporting new developments every few minutes, more construction in human space, more energy signatures that didn't match any known technology, more probes appearing around the barrier, studying it, testing it, learning from it. What have we done? Zexai asked. Though he already knew the answer, Admiral Kretok studied the data streams with growing alarm. We have given the most innovative species in the galaxy complete freedom to innovate without any outside influence or limitation. We have given them a reason to develop technologies we have never seen before. And we have given them 3 months to do it, added another council member. The chamber fell silent again as everyone contemplated the situation. They had tried to contain humanity by cutting them off from galactic civilization. Instead, they had created the perfect conditions for human ingenuity to flourish without restraint. What do we do now? Someone asked. Before anyone could answer, every monitoring station around the barrier began reporting the same thing. The energy readings from human space were spiking even higher. Whatever they were building was approaching completion, and the probes studying the barrier were no longer content to just observe. They were beginning to interact with the containment systems, learning how they worked, testing their weaknesses. Kretok looked at his fellow council members with all 4 of his glowing eyes. I believe we are about to find out exactly what humans can accomplish when they have no choice but to rely on themselves. The next report from the monitoring stations came just minutes later. The barrier systems were beginning to show power fluctuations. Something was drawing energy from them. Something was learning to use the containment system itself as a resource. Humanity was not just breaking free. They were turning their prison into a tool. Dr. Elena Vasquez had not slept in 36 hours. Her laboratory on Luna, Earth's moon, buzzed with activity as her team worked around the clock. Coffee cups and food containers covered every surface not occupied by scientific equipment. The why? Breakthrough had come just weeks after the barrier appeared, but understanding it fully required time they didn't have. Elena, you need to see this, called her assistant, Dr. James Park. He stood beside a massive holographic display showing energy readings from around the solar system. Elena walked over, pushing her dark hair away from tired eyes. What am I looking at, James? The quantum interference patterns from their jamming systems, he explained, pointing to the swirling data. They're not just blocking our communications, they're creating a field effect we've only theorized about. Elena studied the patterns more closely. After a moment, her eyes widened with realization. 0-point energy extraction. They've accidentally created the perfect conditions for it. That's what I thought too, James said excitedly. The Council's barrier isn't just cutting us off from the galaxy, it's handing us unlimited clean energy. Elena sat down heavily in a nearby chair. The implications were staggering. For decades, human scientists had known that 0-point energy was theoretically possible. The space between atoms contained enormous amounts of energy, but accessing it required precise quantum field manipulation that had always been beyond their reach. They've built us the largest 0-point energy generator in galactic history, she whispered, and they don't even know it. Within hours, Elena's discovery had reached the emergency coalition government that had formed after Earth lost contact with the galactic community. President Martinez listened to her explanation with growing amazement. Dr. Vasquez, are you telling me their attempt to cut us off has actually given us unlimited power? He asked. More than that, Mr. President, Elena replied via video link from Luna. It's given us the key to technological independence. We were so busy using their systems that we never fully developed our own potential. Now we have no choice. The IDER president leaned forward in his chair. What do you need? Resources, people, and permission to completely redesign our approach to everything. We can't just adapt their technology anymore. We need to build better technology from scratch. Elena's request triggered the largest mobilization in human history. Colony ships that had been exploring outward suddenly turned around and headed home. bringing materials, equipment, and brilliant minds from across human space. Every university, every research facility, every industrial complex began working on the same project. Complete technological independence. The work progressed at a pace that amazed even the humans involved. Without the option of using galactic technology, human creativity exploded in new directions. Problems that had been solved by purchasing alien solutions were now approached with fresh thinking. Energy production became the first major breakthrough. Within weeks of Elena's discovery, zero-point energy extractors were being built in every human system. The unlimited power allowed for projects that had never been possible before. Material science followed quickly. Without access to galactic trade networks, humans had to learn to create any substance they needed. Nanotechnology advanced by decades in a matter of months. Soon, human facilities could build anything from basic metals to exotic matter at the molecular level. But the most important breakthrough came from Captain Sarah Chen, still stranded in the outer colonies with her exploration ship. Cut off from Earth and unable to return through normal space, she and her crew began working on an impossible problem. Faster-than-light travel that didn't depend on galactic hyperlane networks. The Council's ships use established routes through hyperspace, Sarah explained to her science team in the ship's laboratory. They need beacons and relay stations because they're following paths that already exist. But what if we don't follow paths? What if we make our own? Her chief science officer, Dr. William Torres, looked up from his calculations. Captain, the energy requirements would be enormous, and we'd need to manipulate space-time directly instead of just slipping into hyperspace. Sarah smiled. Good thing we have unlimited energy now, and good thing we're humans. Dr. Torres understood immediately. Humans had always preferred to solve problems by creating new solutions rather than perfecting old ones. You want to build a drive that manipulates quantum foam itself? Exactly. We don't need their roads if we can reshape reality. The work was dangerous and experimental. Sarah's team had to invent new physics while working with forces that could destroy their ship in an instant. But they pressed forward with the determination that had carried humanity to the stars in the first place. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the Global Defense Initiative was preparing for what everyone knew was coming. The isolation couldn't last forever. Eventually, there would be a confrontation with the Council. Humanity needed to be ready. Admiral Jackson Rodriguez stood in the command center of the largest military project in human history. The Pacific Trench facility extended miles below, the ocean floor and miles out in every direction. Here, human engineers were building weapons and ships that operated on principles the galaxy had never seen. Admiral, the orbital shipyards report completion of the first squadron, his aide reported. Construction time was 37 days, from start to finish. Rodriguez nodded. Human shipbuilding had been revolutionized by unlimited energy and molecular assembly. Ships that would have taken years to build using galactic methods were now completed in weeks. But more importantly, these ships were designed from the ground up using human innovation. And the Moon Project? Luna is now 70% hollowed out, sir. The manufacturing complex is producing materials faster than we can use them. Rodriguez looked out at the ocean surface far above. Somewhere up there, the rest of humanity was working with the same desperate creativity his people showed. Down here, every human colony, every research station, every individual was contributing to the greatest technological leap in species history. The breakthrough moment came simultaneously across human space. Elena's zero-point energy systems reached maximum efficiency. Sarah's faster-than-light drive completed its first successful test. The orbital shipyards finished their 1,000th vessel. The Luna manufacturing complex achieved full production capacity, and in the depths of the Pacific Trench, something unprecedented took its first breath of artificial life. Dr. Vasquez, President Martinez called her during one of the daily briefings. How long until we're ready? Elena looked at the report streaming in from across human civilization. Industrial output beyond anything they had ever achieved. Scientific breakthroughs happening daily. Military preparations that would have been impossible just months before. Mr. President, we're not just ready, she replied. We're ready to show the galaxy what humans can really do when we stop depending on others and start depending on ourselves. The barrier that had been meant to contain humanity was about to discover something important about human nature. When humans faced a wall, they didn't just find a way around it or through it. They used it as raw material to build something better. The morning shift was just beginning at Monitoring Station Alpha 7 when the impossible happened. Technician Vexmore had been watching the containment barrier systems for 3 months without seeing anything unusual. The massive energy collectors that powered the jamming field had been running at perfect efficiency since the day they activated. Then, in the space of 17 minutes, every single one went dark. "Commander," Vexmore called out, his 3-fingered hands dancing over his control panel. "I'm showing complete power failure across all barrier systems." Commander Thelas rushed to the monitoring station. "That's impossible. Those collectors have enough stored energy to run for 50 years. What are your diagnostics showing?" "That's just it, Commander. The collectors are undamaged. They're just empty. Something drained every bit of power from the entire containment grid." Across the galaxy, similar reports flooded into Concordia Prime. Every monitoring station reported the same thing. The barrier around human space had not been destroyed or damaged. It had simply been switched off by draining its power supply completely. On Concordia Prime, Admiral Kretok received the reports with growing dread. He had expected humans to eventually break through the barrier, but not like this. This suggested they had learned to use the containment system itself as an energy source. "How much power was stored in those collectors?" he asked his technical staff. "Approximately 4 trillion terawatt-hours, Admiral," came the reply. "Enough energy to power a small star system for decades." "And where did all that energy go?" "We don't know, sir. Our sensors show it was drawn away gradually over the past 72 hours, but we cannot determine how or where it went." Before Admiral Kretok could respond, every alarm on the station began sounding simultaneously. Emergency broadcasts flooded the communication networks. Reports came in from every major council installation, outpost, and homeworld in the galaxy. Human ships had appeared everywhere at once. These were not the crude, functional vessels that the council had cataloged in their databases. These were sleek craft that seemed to bend light around themselves, ships that appeared and disappeared like ghosts, vessels that moved through space in ways that ignored conventional physics. Admiral Kretok to Concordia Prime Command. His voice crackled over the communication system. "I need immediate tactical assessment. How many human ships are we detecting?" The Gyo reply came back within minutes, and the numbers were staggering. "Sir, we're showing human vessels at every major council facility. Estimated count is, Admiral, they have over 3 million ships deployed simultaneously." Kretok's 4 eyes went dark with shock. The entire council navy consisted of approximately 1 million vessels accumulated over thousands of years by hundreds of species. Somehow, in 6 months, humanity had built a fleet 3 times larger than the combined military might of galactic civilization. But the most unsettling part was not the numbers. It was what the human ships were doing. They were not attacking. They were not demanding surrender. They were not even communicating threats. They were simply there, surrounding every council installation with overwhelming force while maintaining perfect discipline. The message that finally came was broadcast simultaneously to every council facility in the galaxy. The voice was calm, professional, and absolutely terrifying in its implications. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Federation. For 6 months you have left us in silence. We would like to thank you for the gift of uninterrupted development time. We are ready to talk now, but this time, the conversation will be on equal terms." In the Concordia Prime Council chamber, Ambassador Zexhai stared at the tactical displays, showing human ships surrounding the massive station. His blue skin had turned almost white with shock. "This cannot be happening," he whispered. 6 months. They accomplished all this in 6 months. Admiral Kretok entered the chamber with grim purpose. "Ambassador, I need to brief the council on what we're facing." The emergency session was hastily called. Representatives who had not spoken to each other in decades gathered to hear Kretok's report. The news was worse than anyone had imagined. The Ga Human fleet represents technology we do not understand, Kreetok began. Their ships move without using hyperlanes. They appear and disappear at will. Our weapons cannot lock onto them. Our sensors cannot predict their movements. But how? Demanded the representative from the Crystalline Collective. They were cut off from all galactic knowledge and resources. That's what we assumed was a weakness, Kreetok replied. It turns out to be their greatest strength. While we spent thousands of years perfecting existing technologies, they spent 6 months inventing completely new ones. The holographic displays showed detailed scans of human vessels. The technology was unlike anything in galactic databases. Power systems that seemed to draw energy from empty space. Propulsion systems that manipulated reality itself. Weapons that operated on principles Council scientists could not identify. What are their demands? Asked Zexhai, his voice barely audible. That's the most disturbing part, Kreetok admitted. They haven't made any demands. They're offering to trade. They want cultural exchange. They're proposing joint exploration. Missions. They're acting like this is a diplomatic meeting between equals. Equals? Zexhai's voice cracked. They have us completely surrounded with superior technology and overwhelming numbers. They could destroy every council installation in the galaxy. Yes, Kreetok agreed. And they're offering to share their innovations with us instead. They want to teach us their problem-solving methods. They're proposing to explore uncharted space together. They're offering everything we denied them, but from a position of absolute strength. The implications slowly sank in around the chamber. The humans were not behaving like conquerors. They were not seeking revenge for the quarantine. They were offering partnership, cooperation, and mutual benefit. But they were doing it with enough firepower to annihilate galactic civilization if their offer was refused. They're giving us a choice, someone said quietly. Accept them as equals or be left behind. Admiral Kreetok nodded. The age of human dependency is over. The question now is whether we want to be partners in whatever comes next, or obstacles to be worked around. Another message from Admiral Chen filled the chamber. Council representatives, we understand this situation is unusual. You attempted to isolate us to prevent our growth. Instead, you forced us to grow beyond anything we thought possible. We hold no anger about this. In fact, we're grateful. You gave us the motivation to become who we really are. We are prepared to share everything we have learned. Our energy systems, our manufacturing methods, our space-time manipulation technology. All of it is available for joint development and mutual benefit. But the relationship must be based on equality and respect. You have 72 hours to decide. We will wait. As the message ended, the council chamber fell silent. Every representative understood what they were facing. Humanity had not just survived isolation, they had used it to transcend every limitation that had contained other species. The species that the council had tried to contain had become more advanced than their captors, and now they were offering to lift the rest of the galaxy up to their level. The vote, when it came, was not about whether to accept humanity as equals. It was about whether galactic civilization would choose to evolve or be left behind by the universe's newest superpower. For the first time in galactic history, it was the Council asking for acceptance, not offering it. The Council chamber of Concordia Prime had never seen chaos quite like this. Representatives from hundreds of species argued, debated, and demanded answers in voices that ranged from musical tones to mechanical grinding. The translation systems worked overtime to keep up with the confusion. Ambassador Zexhai stood at the center of it all, no longer the confident leader who had proposed the quarantine 6 months earlier. His blue skin had lost its vibrant color, and his 4 arms moved nervously as he tried to restore order. Please, he called out. We must discuss this rationally. The human fleet is still waiting for our response. Rationally? The representative from the molten cores species glowed brighter with anger. You told us they would stagnate. You said they would become manageable. Instead, they have become the most powerful force in the galaxy. Admiral Kreetok watched the chaos with grim satisfaction. He had warned them this would happen, but no one had listened. Now the entire galactic order was being turned upside down by the very species they had tried to contain. "If I may," came a new voice from the chamber's communication system. The arguing stopped immediately as everyone recognized the calm tones of Dr. Elena Vasquez, broadcasting from Earth. "Council representatives," she continued, "I am Dr. Elena Vasquez, Director of Human Scientific Development. I have been asked to explain how we achieved what you consider impossible." A holographic image of the human scientist appeared in the center of the chamber. She looked tired but confident, surrounded by displays of scientific data that made several alien scientists gasp in recognition. "You made a critical error in your assessment of human capabilities," Dr. Vasquez began. "You assumed we needed your technology to advance, but what we actually needed was a reason to stop depending on it." She gestured to the data displays around her. "For 50 years we used galactic technology because it was available and proven. Why develop new solutions when established ones could be purchased or traded? Your quarantine didn't limit us. It liberated us from the convenience of your existing systems." The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. Several representatives leaned forward to study the scientific data Dr. Vasquez was sharing. "You see, there is a fundamental difference between how humans and most other species approach problems," she continued. "Your civilizations have spent millennia perfecting established technologies. You refine, improve, and optimize systems that already work. This creates stable, reliable societies. Humans prefer to invent new solutions entirely. Give us a problem, and we will solve it in ways you never imagined, using principles you never considered. Your quarantine gave us 6 months to solve every problem we faced without any established solutions to fall back on." Dr. Vasquez manipulated her displays to show the progression of human development during isolation. Energy production charts showed exponential growth. Manufacturing capacity graphs depicted impossible increases. Scientific breakthrough timelines revealed innovations happening daily. Within weeks, we had turned your containment barrier into the largest zero-point energy generator in galactic history. Within months, we had learned to manipulate space-time directly instead of using your hyperlane networks. Your attempt to cut us off from galactic resources forced us to learn how to create any material we needed at the molecular level. The representative from the mathematical mind species, a being of pure geometric energy, pulsed with confusion. "Dr. Vasquez, these developments should have taken centuries. How did you achieve them so quickly?" "Because we had to," she replied simply. "When you removed the option of using existing solutions, we had no choice but to create better ones. And humans work best when we have no choice but to succeed." Admiral Kretok stepped forward. "Dr. Vasquez, what do humans want from the Council now?" The human scientist smiled, and something in that expression made several representatives feel both hopeful and nervous. "Admiral, we want exactly what you denied us 6 months ago. Communication, trade, cultural exchange, and cooperative exploration of the galaxy. But now we are offering these things from a position of strength, not dependency." She paused to let that sink in. "We will share our zero-point energy systems freely with any species that wants them. We will teach our rapid manufacturing methods to anyone interested in learning. We will provide our space-time manipulation technology for joint exploration projects. But," she continued, and her tone became more serious, "the relationship must be based on equality and mutual respect. The age of human dependence on galactic civilization is over. We are offering partnership, not subordination." Sexhai found his voice again. "And if the Council refuses this partnership?" Dr. Vasquez shrugged. "Then you refuse it. We will continue developing our technology, exploring uncharted space, and building new civilizations. The galaxy is large, enough for multiple approaches to advancement. But you should understand what you would be choosing." Her displays changed to show projections of continued human development. The numbers were staggering. Within 50 years, humans would have explored and colonized more space than the Council had touched in thousands of years. Within a century, human technology would be so far advanced that galactic civilization would be irrelevant to human progress. "We are not threatening you," Dr. Vasquez explained. "We are simply showing you the two paths available. One leads to cooperation and mutual advancement. The other leads to the Council becoming a historical footnote while humanity explores the universe. Alone. The chamber erupted in discussion again, but this time it was different. Instead of panic and confusion, representatives were calculating possibilities and potentials. The fear was being replaced by something else. Opportunity. The representative, from the ancient archives, a species that had remained neutral in most galactic politics, spoke carefully. Dr. Vasquez, if we accept this partnership, what guarantees do we have that humans will not eventually dominate the galaxy anyway? None, Dr. Vasquez replied honestly. But you have our word that we prefer cooperation to domination. We learn more from working with others than from controlling them. Besides, if you accept our partnership and learn our methods, you will be advancing alongside us instead of falling behind. Admiral Kretok studied the data streams one more time. Dr. Vasquez, there is something I must ask. Could humans have developed all this technology before the quarantine? Did you have these capabilities all along? The human scientist considered the question carefully. We had the potential, Admiral, but potential means nothing without motivation. Your quarantine gave us the motivation to stop accepting limitations and start transcending them. In a way, you gave us the greatest gift possible, the necessity to become who we really are. The vote, when it finally came, was not close. The Council voted 851 to 8 in favor of accepting humanity as an equal partner in galactic civilization, but everyone understood that the real relationship had already been established. Humans were no longer asking for acceptance, they were offering it. 6 months later, the first joint Human Council exploration fleet launched toward uncharted regions of the galaxy. The fleet consisted of human vessels using space-time manipulation drives and Council ships upgraded with human zero-point energy systems. Both technologies worked together in ways that neither could achieve alone. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the expedition flagship, watching stars stream past as they traveled faster than any vessel in galactic history. Beside her, Admiral Kretok monitored systems that represented the combined knowledge of hundreds of species enhanced by human innovation. Admiral Chen, Kretok said quietly, I must ask, what would have happened if the Council had chosen differently? If we had refused your partnership? Sarah smiled and looked out at the unexplored space ahead of them. We would have missed you, Admiral, but we would have kept going. Humans always keep going. The galaxy had learned something important about the newest member of galactic civilization. Humans could be contained for a while, but they could not be stopped. Try to limit them and they would transcend those limitations. Give them obstacles and they would turn those obstacles into opportunities. Most importantly, they had learned that humans preferred to bring others along on their journey to the stars. But they would make that journey regardless, with or without company. The age of human isolation was over. The age of human leadership had just begun.